Oh, baby. We got some Jaguars trade rumors here to discuss on today's episode of Jags Now, presented by Prize Picks, our wonderful sponsor, involving Brian Thomas Jr. We're going to talk about it. What's the latest? Could the Jaguars even trade into round one of the 2026 NFL draft? It's absolute pandemonium here at Chat Sports. And of course, the Jaguars, James Gladstone, as we know, is not afraid to make a bold, big move. Could it be for a Brian Thomas Jr. trade into the first round? We're going to discuss, but guys, before we get into it, I need you guys to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you enjoy this Jaguars coverage. We've got you covered not only through the NFL draft, not only through the entire NFL offseason. We got you covered all year round here at Jags Now, and we're trying to grow this community. We're on a road to 3,000 subscribers, so if you could hit that subscribe button, be greatly appreciated here on the channel. Without any further ado, let's get into this news. So, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, he had the report this morning, and it was more of like a speculative report, but I'm just going to kind of read the quote here from Florio and just can I get my reaction. We'll talk more about why the Jaguars could potentially trade into round one. Florio, this to say, last year the Jaguars gave up this year's first-round pick as a part of the effort to move up 3 spots to go get Travis Hunter. This year the Jaguars may be using a prior first-round pick to get another one. As the draft approaches, we're told that the Jaguars may be trying to lay the foundation for a potential trade into the bottom of round one. The potential bait could include receiver Brian Thomas Jr. Thomas has been a constant subject of trade chatter. Last month, general manager James Gladstone called such talk fraudulent as a first-round pick, and he goes on to talk about Thomas's down year last year and all this other stuff, and basically laid out the fact that much as it depends on whether here's later in the article, much of it depends on whether a player the Jaguars covet is available as the first round moves past the first 20 picks or so, and whether there's a team in that window that would prefer to trade its first-round pick for Thomas. My initial reaction is, wow, what a bombshell from Florio. I still have trouble kind of just getting this general sense and feeling that the Jaguars would move off of Brian Thomas Jr. Now, I'm not saying they're not having maybe conversations with teams, as we get closer to the draft. I mean, you're obviously going to do your due diligence if you're a general manager, not if you're James Gladstone, but also if you're opposing NFL GMs, right? And Brian Thomas Jr., if you're kind of a back half of the first round team and you're looking to add a wide receiver to your roster, who would you rather have? Brian Thomas Jr. or Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana? Brian Thomas Jr. or Denzel Boston? Brian Thomas Jr. or a Casey Concepcion. The list can continue, right? But I think this is really interesting conversation coming from Florio. Again, day of the draft, there's a lot of smoke screens and stuff. Now, per Gladstone and Liam Cohen, right? So this is just what they've said, at least to the media, and what they've always kind of portrayed is that Brian Thomas Jr., they've not had any talks, at least the last time they spoke to the media, in regards to Brian Thomas Jr. And Cohen obviously said that he's a big piece of the puzzle. We have, a vision for him in 2026. We're looking to see what it looks like in the offseason. And my initial reaction is that I think that the Jaguars will look to try to keep Brian Thomas Jr. more than look to trade him. I just haven't gotten the sense that they've had any inclination that they're looking to trade him, to another team. But this is a really interesting report from Florio. And we're going to talk about this some more in terms of what could some teams expect in terms of, why the Jaguar or what Jaguars fans should expect if the Jaguars are looking to trade up, why some reasons that they could, and more on Brian Thomas Jr. here in just a moment. But as we mentioned off the top, this show, Jags Now, is presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. The playoffs are here for basketball. Baseball is underway, and it's time to cash in with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. If you're a hoops guy, you can go with points, rebounds, assists, blocks, or three-pointers. If you're more of a seam head, you can choose hits, home runs, or strikeouts. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. I've got a 2-player basketball lineup that you guys are seeing on screen. Give me the more on Jalen Brunson's 2.5 3-pointers made. Give me the less on Jaden McDaniels' 2-pointers made at 4.5. You can copy my picks or you can fade my picks. Just make sure you do it with Prize Picks. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today with the link in the comments and description and use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. It's always going to be right with Prize Picks. All right, getting into more of this Brian Thomas Jr. just kind of discussion. So, look, how much would Brian Thomas Jr. theoretically be worth? We've talked about it whenever the trade kind of rumors were swirling around, and I never thought seriously that he was going to get moved. I still think it's more than likely that he stays a Jacksonville Jaguar post-NFL draft. But the reporting, or at least kind of the general sense that I was getting from the Jaguars, is that it would have to take an overpay for the Jaguars to move off of Brian Thomas Jr. And I kind of was getting the sense that it would have to be maybe an early second or a late first, hence the report from Florio. So if the Jaguars are looking to move off of Brian Thomas Jr., late first theoretically could get it done. And you could still keep picks 56, 81, 88, 100, etc., right? I don't think the Jaguars would do that. I mean, I haven't maybe gotten the sense that they're even looking to maybe replace him with a wide receiver from this draft class. Now, it is a deep wide receiver draft class, but I just think that they're more invested in Brian Thomas Jr., who has, at bare minimum, 2 years left on his rookie contract, depending on whether or not they pick up the 5th-year option. And I just don't think that the Jaguars would want to just potentially move off of Brian Thomas Jr. after only 1 year in Liam Cohen's system. That's just my general opinion. You guys let me know, y'all's down in the comment section. But I also wanted to bring this up from Ryan O'Halloran, who had a couple of tweets responding to Pro Football Talk and then also just talking about some Jaguars trade-up motives. He had the following. It says, per my official NFL draft analytics expert, he credits the guy. He says, number 56, 88, and 100 for number 32 is dead even on the points chart, right? So this is obviously talking about the Seattle Seahawks, who have made it known that they are looking to trade out of the first round in order to gain more picks. They only have 4 draft picks during this 2026 NFL draft, whereas the Jaguars have 11. If the Jaguars want to go the picks route, there is a way for them to get into the first round. If you're looking at it from the draft value chart, the Rich Hill one that I use kind of backs this up. Maybe the Jaguars and other NFL teams, they could use different charts in terms of valuing draft picks. So leave that as it may. But he also had this, which I thought was really interesting as well. Let's work through the Jaguars' trade-up motives. 1, covet a cornerback, include BTJ in a deal, and declare Hunter a full-time wide receiver. Again, based on what Cohen and Gladstone have said, I don't know how likely that is, but it's an interesting option. So maybe if they like a cornerback, like say, I don't know, like if it's Ramad McCoy were to somehow fall, could he potentially be a Jaguars draft target? I don't know. But that's what Halloran said. 2, no, the defensive tackle board will be picked, cleaned up by about number 40. Maybe it could be. I'm getting the sense that teams are lower on this defensive tackle draft class. We talked about Kristen Miller. We've talked about Caleb Banks, Lee Hunter. Obviously, there's Peter Woods, Cade McDonald. I mean, if the Jaguars really want to go get one of those guys, like they could trade up for one of those guys. Could make some sense. 3, O'Halloran says, understands the pass rush needs a big-time add. Again, as kind of like a sub package, just to give a guy like Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker some breathing room, maybe. And then 4, wants to add a joker tight end to join Strange. So, again, not necessarily reporting that the Jaguars are looking to trade up, but just discussing some possibilities that Jacksonville could potentially look at. And my kind of conclusion from this is there's been some smoke, right? It is smoke screen season after all. And will the Jaguars look to trade up in the first round? I mean, it would take a lot. It would 100% take a lot to move up. from 56 overall into the first round? Could it potentially cost Brian Thomas Jr.? Maybe. Could it potentially cost most, if not all, your day 2 picks? Maybe. I mean, it's the value that, James Gladstone and Liam Cohen maybe have on a particular player as compared to how we think could be vastly different. And it creates an interesting discussion. If I had to just, gut feeling, what do I think is going to happen? I think the Jaguars stay in terms of, they're going to stay drafting on day 2. But could they potentially maybe look to move up on day 2, or maybe even, round 2 specifically, maybe round 3? I could 100% see that. Round 1 to me just feels like a bit of a stretch. And again, this kind of Brian Thomas trade rumor speculation buzz, it just keeps kind of popping up out of nowhere. So I'm not saying that there's no validity to it, but we just haven't heard anything in terms of concrete, even an inkling. Like anytime that Gladstone and Cohen have talked about Brian Thomas Jr., they've been pretty stone-faced in terms of how they've discussed him and, whether or not they've been looking to move on from him. And they've made it clear that he's in their plans. They're not looking to move him. They haven't received any calls from Brian Thomas Jr., but these articles, I mean, again, Connor Hughes talked about it, Pro Football Talk. We'll see ultimately what comes to pass tonight during the NFL draft. Regardless, we'll have a video out on the channel that goes out tonight, whether the Jaguars to trade in to the first round or not. Make sure you guys subscribe and tune in for that one. But before I get out of here, I just want to ask you guys this. Will the Jaguars trade into round 1 of the NFL draft? Let me know down in the comments section below. Again, my kind of just initial feeling is no, but I want to hear from you guys on these latest Jaguars draft rumors. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Jags Now presented by Chat Sports. And until next time, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, and let's have a day for the NFL draft.